All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are on episode 15 of the H2O podcast. I am always thrilled. I'm always excited to be able to have conversations with like-minded people and people who, quite frankly, think differently and bring something very different to the discussion. It's been a while since I've been able to focus around the business aspect of what it means to heal as an entrepreneur, moving into your own direction, and what it means to optimize in that direction. And so we're going to get a bit of that kind of discussion for tonight. But before we do anything, as I make intention to make sure that when we come into this space and into this room, that we have the right mindset. And one of the key ways that I do this, you already know what's about to happen. We're taking some good breaths. So we are going to have the opportunity to cut every stress, every pain pattern that has been brought with us to this exact moment, just by simply doing some different breathing patterns so that we can reset and we can be focused and we can be present while the discussion is going on. And hopefully you as a listener, you can be absorbing information in a much more optimal state just because you took the opportunity to breathe. So that's what we're going to do. Let's do a couple of cycles of 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds release, and then 4 seconds of complete rest. Let's do a couple of cycles of those. If you feel more comfortable with doing a cycle of 5 and 5, 5 seconds inhale and 5 seconds exhale, you feel free to go about doing it. But I am going to do the 4-4-4-4. Okay. Join me, if you will, our guest, Mr. Chris. And we're just going to start it off just like that. And inhale. Hold. Exhale. And just relax. I like to close my eyes. You all do not have to close your eyes. It's just something I like to do, but you can keep your eyes open. Let's do that again. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Rest. Last time. Inhale for 4. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Doesn't that just feel so much better? Okay, let me set a couple of intentions that I desire out of my time together with our guest and eventually with people who will watch this. One of my intentions is to um, set deep gratitude in the moment. There's many things that can happen throughout the day, throughout the week, but all in all, overall, I've learned and I'm still learning how to be intentional about being grateful and expressing that gratitude. So that's something I want to set for this podcast. I set the intention of deep appreciation for uh, you, deep intention, appreciation for you and others' process. So yours and others' process. As we know that life is a process, it is a journey. We are becoming, we are learning along that process. And to be able to appreciate that process is very important because if you choose not to, you just simply make life that much more challenging and difficult for you. So let me put my glasses on and not be trying to squint and look at what I put on here. So deep appreciation for yours and others' process. And then lastly, my intention is set for deep learning. Okay, so whatever is shared, whatever is going to be spoken in these minutes and seconds together with our guests, that we take the opportunity to learn in the moment, to simply learn. So those are my intentions for this moment. To our dear guest, who will officially introduce himself a little bit later as we come to that point, do you have any intentions that you would like to set for the moment?
Yes, I would say my intention is to empower and to be present.
Excellent. Beautiful, beautiful. As I often like to start our podcast with the following, and that is possibilities of every genre is available to you and I. And I do mean every kind. And whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. I know it's an adage. I know it's something that's said. In fact, I don't think that we can hear it enough. Whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve it and you can do it. And remember, any possibility, every possibility is available to you and I. And I decree that. I decree that you have the knowledge, the wisdom, and the clarity to know what possibilities that you desire and what you desire to move forward in your life. As I started this, somewhat, I'm going to call it a tradition, to give the prophetic word, the word that I've been able to pray on out of my prayer time for the year. There's the words I've given for each month. We've just shifted into the month of May, and so I want to put this into the atmosphere as well. And then we're going to move on with the actual discussion going forward. But I think it is important to not only set the intentions for your day, but also to set the intentions for your month and for your year overall. But it's something special to have that kind of motivating word, or a word that can guide you throughout the days of the month to reroute your thinking in the event, or not in the event, when the event you are bombarded with just unnecessary things. But remember, it all works for your good. That being said, the prophetic word for the month of May is, this is your month to be creative. So this is especially something that should invigorate all of my creative people. And even if you're not, or if you don't consider yourself to be creative, my hope is that you would open yourself for that creative juice to flow. Be free in how you think. So if you are recognizing that there are a lot of closed areas in your thinking, I get surprised at times on how many places that sneak up on me and are closed. But be free in the way that you think, because this is a time and a moment where perhaps the areas that you've been closed in may be areas that you need to reconsider. That being said, there's always many sides to a thing. There's many different ways that you can look at something that you've been overlooking. And last week, one of the things I shared on the podcast is that sometimes we can be standing too close, or I think the phrase is, the thing that you want or you need most is right before your eyes. So that being said, it may be something that you are needing to go back and take multiple looks at, take that panoramic view, because you could be drawing out something more out of the thing you keep overlooking. Remember, you can only be you. This is the jewel of it all. Simply be you. And out of being you, I promise you, you'll discover more and more. You cannot make yourself more or less than who you are. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And just the last note, nor can you make anything happen before it's time. Everything is set in its appropriate time. Be at peace, be at peace, be at peace. Tell your soul to be patient, right? If there's any agitations that get you stirred up because you're anticipating something that you can't see it, or you wanting to make something happen and it's just not happening for you, rest and know that it's going to take its proper course. You continue to show up and you continue to participate in life with everything that you know to do, and I guarantee you that it's going to unfold, whatever that it is. Okay, so that's the prophetic word for the month of May. I will be reiterating and likely be providing new insights, new commentary each time that I share that. But overall, that's the word for this month. As we go into this interview, I want to say that for our guest, I've only recently met him, only 7 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, something like that. And it was in a brief crossing at Target, I think that's how they say it, at Target, or AKA Target. And I was impressed by the spirit of our guest, and he just came back to me these last couple of weeks. And I thought to myself, you know what? Let me just reach out to him and see what, because he gave me his card and we exchanged information months ago, but have not really kept in contact. And as I had been planning out the month for different guests for the month of May, his name and his card kept coming back up. So I reached out to him, and we had brief conversation. He agreed to come to the podcast, and voila, here he is. And we're going to learn more about Mr. Chris, our business coach. We'll learn more about his journey. But before we do, I like to start off with a couple of fun questions, with rapid fire questions based a little bit on what the person, what I know about them, and just kind of get them in the hot seat, more so than what they'll be or what he'll be whenever we start to inquire more about him. So, Mr. Chris, are you ready?
Uh-oh, I'm ready.
So, first question is your favorite exercise in the gym?
Favorite exercise in the gym? Anything that's having to do with abs.
Okay. We won't do a clickbait for this one, but that could be something at a later time. We may do a clickbait and have Mr. Chris show his abs. Okay. Secondly, greatest physical comeback. Greatest physical comeback. So, for example, as an athlete, there are several opportunities to incur injuries, and the fortitude it takes to bounce back from injury, and then depending on how long you've been an athlete, injury after injury after injury. What is your greatest comeback story? In brief, is there one?
I would say yes, definitely there is three, but though I say the most would be, so I played Division I football. I tore my
Do
MCL.
tell, which school, Division I, where?
So started out well, for a short stint, I started out in Arkansas, and then finished out at Houston Baptist University. So went there, had the opportunity to play, tore my MCL, my meniscus, and my rotator cuff. And long story short, most people thought, all right, he's done. But I just had the drive that I don't care what it's going to take. I'm going to come back. And I decided not to get surgery. I decided to just play through the pain and played the entire season on a torn MCL, meniscus, and a rotator cuff. So it was interesting, to say the least. I couldn't move like I wanted to move, but I still had sacks. I still had tackles for loss. I still had a decent, good time. I obviously could have had a better career in that standpoint, but it was fun for sure. So I would say that's probably at the top when it comes to injuries.
Well, anybody out there who's experienced a similar injury knows how much of a champion, or there's a certain mentality that you have to endure an entire season with that kind of injury. So hats off to you. Last question, favorite protein shake?
Favorite protein shake? Anything vanilla. Anything vanilla.
All right. No chocolate, vanilla. Okay.
I'm a vanilla guy. Anything vanilla, I got it. I mean, I got enough chocolate right here. So There's no need for any other chocolate. So.
All right, I'm not gonna go in on that comment there, but okay, fantastic, man. Well, little current events as we have probably, as you've probably been inundated. We all have likely been inundated in some capacity. But the Dave Chappelle attack. Any thoughts on that? You know anything about it?
Wow, I definitely wasn't expecting that one.
I try to keep it fresh, something that people can probably connect to. I don't normally like to follow a lot of this, but I did have a conversation about the Will Smith and Chris Rock situation with a cousin of mine who has his own platform earlier in the month of April. So I thought it was only appropriate to kind of touch on this and then get to the meat of what we're doing.
Hey, that's fine. So obviously he got tackled. And he dodged it. He dodged it.
Did he dodge it? I thought he actually got taken down.
He dodged it on the standpoint of being able to not get injured from it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll say it that way because it could have been a lot worse. But I would definitely say security could have been a lot tighter. Number one, I mean, that was their job to make sure that he was safe. And Jamie Foxx, I believe, said that at the end as well. It's like, hey, man, keep this man safe. But people are going to do what they want to do. And we live in a time where mindsets have been changed. Things are a little too, this is my opinion,
Sure.
but a little too sensitive. I mean, a comedian is a comedian for a reason. If you don't like the show, don't go. There's comedians I don't like. There's comedians I do like. But this person obviously had the intention to go for that specific reason. And I don't agree with the physical side of it. You know, I came from, and I guess I could say this a little bit later on, but I came from an environment where, you know, if you had beef with someone, you know, fight it out. But you also have to pick the right timing. And for him to do that at that point, obviously it didn't end in the right direction that he probably wanted it to go. But maybe it did. I mean, who knows? So I definitely don't agree with the method in which he did it. But there's nothing we can do now.
No, did you see the aftermath?
I did when Dave Chappelle joked around with Jamie Foxx and Chris Rock came on stage and said, "Will, was that you?" And
Yeah.
and all the different comments. So
Did you see the aftermath of the guy that attacked him?
oh yeah, that's what happens when you don't plan stuff accordingly.
Yeah, like his arm was like in front of him, and it was crazy. I actually did a light poll with my students. I teach high school robotics and engineering, which is not
Nice.
my background, but um, for the record, because I don't want anybody trying to reach out and trying to make me an expert in an area that is not my expertise. But all that being said, I just threw kind of a poll out to the students and asked them, is it the responsibility of the comedian to shoulder some of the, shoulder the responsibility of perhaps modifying his or her jokes, seeing that we are in a state where people are more sensitive? That my previous question was, how would you rate the mental health of people in the United States on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the worst, 0 being very low? Obviously, the world has had to deal with COVID, but I wanted to narrow their focus to the United States. That was my question. Then I hit them with, so knowing that, and most of them said that we were probably like in a 6 at the lowest, a 9 at the highest. Most of them said that Americans were dealing with a lot of mental health issues. I backdoored it with the question of, is it then the responsibility of the comedian to consider this as part of the way that they perhaps tailor their jokes, that if people are more sensitive, should they be telling insensitive jokes? What's your
It's
thought?
man, that's a good question. And I would almost say it depends on the person,
Okay.
which is why it is what it is. I mean, you look at Kevin Hart, and because of the things that he said and had backlash for, he's came back and switched some things up to be able to please, but at the same
Mm,
time still kind of move forward as a comedian. However, you look at a Dave Chappelle, and I mean, same thing. He did, tailor it to an extent, but he still wanted to make sure that people understand uh, freedom of speech, because we do still have to fight for those things. Because I mean, if everybody has to tailor what they say because someone is sensitive, that means we'll all have to tailor it because everybody is sensitive about something.
sure.
So you're never going to have 100% of the crowd loving you. There's always going to be that one, and because of that, there's only so much you can do. I mean, it's even in the business world. We'll talk about that later. But even in the business world, it's the same. But you have to be cognizant that this is America. It's not a dictatorship. It's a democracy, and we are still is dying, unfortunately, and we have to gain those things back. But freedom of speech is still a real thing. So if you don't enjoy it, or if you don't agree with it, don't pay for it and don't talk about it. It's just like clothing. If people immediately say, "Well, I don't agree with so and so." Okay, well, why are you still buying his clothes?
Sure. Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
don't support him. Don't support him if you don't agree with what he's talking about. But when you look at it, you're not going to agree with every single person. So we have to do what it says in every spiritual book, and that's forgive and understand that we're all human. So we won't be perfect by any means. And yeah, if you don't like it, just don't go.
Yeah, well, and that was one of my other questions I have for my students was, um, if what's the purpose of going to a comedy show? What is, and of course it's a broad stroke question, but what is the intent of going to a comedy show? And that may be a question that people need to ask themselves more, be more reflective of the question before they purchase a ticket, perhaps, in my opinion. Because with someone who is as politically charged, as as Fox News would say, very radioactive as Dave Chappelle, you go in knowing that you could likely be at the butt of his joke, or jokes,
Mhm.
for some extent. So, but nonetheless, thought it was fun to just kind of bring that topic up. So please tell us, what's your title, what do you do, and what's your name?
So I am a owner, father, husband, son, a lot of things. But professionally, I am a owner, business coach, as well as a personal trainer. So that consists of teaching people how to build passive income. That also consists of uh, coaching individuals who are in the business world already have their own business, and they're looking to move their business forward, whether it be productivity, whether it be uh, their employees, whether it be planning, et cetera, et cetera, and helping them to be able to understand that they already have the answers within themselves. They just have to slow down to speed up. And the name that I was given is Christopher Anthony, which I'm very proud of.
Dope, 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 dope. You took me in so quick, man. I almost got lost and didn't You know what my next question was? Because there was a lot, even just within that short period that you mentioned, that my brain just started popping up like, oh, this question, ask that question, ask that. Okay, we'll get there. So what's been your journey starting backwards? Okay, so let's think about where you are now, and then take us back. Where did you come from? So you've given us a lot about you gave us a really good introduction by title on down to your name. Um, what is your business? Kind of give us some background about uh, business name, perhaps. You already opened the door about what it is you do. You can give us a little bit more about what you do in case people are want to, you know, learn more about your business model, perhaps. Of course, you can save all of the details at the end of the interview, but if you can, just give us a little bit more about where you are now in terms of your business and how did you get there?
For sure. So three different avenues. So the first one I'll dive into is the passive income side. So to say it in a short form, we teach individuals who are looking to expand their portfolio, to make some extra money, whatever it may be, you know, add an additional side income, build something for their future, a legacy, dynasty, however you want to say it. We teach them a process online to be able to create a subscription-based income. Because what we've all seen lately and what we all understand is subscriptions are everything. But how we do it is through the meaning of service with quality products. So you think about an Amazon, you think about a Walmart, you think about a Netflix with the subscription services. So we do those things as well as coach individuals leadership and how to continue to build their business. So that's the passive income piece. Then you have the business coaching. It's global. So anyone in the business world who's looking for more, you know, hopefully if you own your own business, you want to continue to grow. But we all have those moments where it's a fault, it's a stop, and we're not sure why. So what I do is I help them get to that why in order to overcome it and pass it. And not only pass it, but eventually be able to double it and continue to move forward in that area. So that's the second one. And then the third one is personal training. So I do that more so for the fun now. But yeah, just helping people look good, helping people feel good, helping people um, feel different about themselves, while also something I love doing personally because I'm a business coach is I'll actually start talking to them while they work out about things that could help them change their mindset. So those are the three endeavors that I focus on. The first one is Vault International. The second one is VIP, coaching and consulting. And then the third one is just me.
Nice. And I had a phone call that came through and I was hitting decline and it muted you for a little bit. So I apologize. Say that, can you just go back when you talked about you as you're working out with clients, it also gives you an opportunity to talk about business things. Can you go back to that part and go from there?
Yeah, not just business things, just life in general. So being able to help them change paradigms, to be able to feel better about themselves as a whole. You know, a lot of times, especially when it comes to fitness, it's more of how can I change quickly, but it's a process, right? And with that process, it's not only a process of burning calories, it's also a mental process. You see a lot of people lose a lot of weight, but then gain it back immediately. But the reason being is because they haven't fixed this part yet.
For sure.
Even though they've lost it here, they haven't lost it here. So what I do is I help them be able to lose it here as well as here.
Well, sign me up, god dang it. I'm sold, man. I'm sold. I mean, it's a beautiful thing and it works so well together, which, as you know now, that my platform is it's strongly health related. I tie it back to the spiritual side. Excuse me. Um, I had a brief little sickness this week, so I didn't go live this week, and I'm recovering my voice. And so, if you hear me coughing and shaking and things like that, that's the reason being. But nonetheless, I start with the spirit first because I think that that's the nucleus of it all. But how how everything overlaps. Truth of the matter is, this is something that I would tell some of my high school students years ago, in a very light and loving, as tender way that I could, the importance of understanding their physical appearance, right, wrong, and indifferent. We live in a culture that, and not just us, I've traveled enough to know that people are going to judge you based on what they see. And of course, we know never judge a book by its cover, because you never know what kind of jewels that you'll find when you actually talk to the person or
Yep.
you actually see the heart of a person. But the way that we look can have a lot to do with the way that we are branding what we do. And to take that a little bit deeper, just to not even so much deeper, but just the sheer fact that when we look good, we feel good, and it's more likely that our health is in a much better place. So it's hard to run a business and you have heart problems. And we saw one of the young, well, not young, he's older than myself, more than a few years. The Samuel, I can't think of his last name, but he's a pretty popular YouTube influencer, has a lot of controversial things to say about the traditions between a man and a woman. And uh, he's gotten a lot of women in particular stirred up, to
Hmm.
say the absolute least. In fact, one of my female cousins, my women cousins, was the one that introduced him to me last year. But all that to say, he passed away. He was
Hmm.
they sent out a notification just earlier today that he had passed away from a heart attack at 56.
Wow.
And really good looking, handsome man. Um, but has had, I don't know how long he's had heart problems. I really didn't investigate, I didn't look into it. But I say that to say that we have to take care of our health, because you can have over 1 million subscribers to your YouTube channel and be generating a wealth of income. But if your health is on the decline, you can't enjoy it.
Yep.
And the state that you leave the people who love you and the people that follow you and who want to be involved in your life, the state that you leave them in because you did not prioritize your health. So I think that's a beautiful thing, to start that place. Okay, so you've given me where you are currently. How did you get to business coaching from the physical coaching? And just kind of walk me down your professional journey, prior to you becoming a business coach.
Sure. So I would say the journey more so started when I was 13. Started my first, I was just like any other kid, you know, uh, girls, sports, and money. Those are the main things. So money was at the top of the list for me personally. Sports was second, and then girls was kind of like, it is what it is. I don't really care about that right now. I want to make money. So I remember being at it was a practice, and there's a gentleman on my that was on one of my teammates. He said, "Hey, my mom brings me straight here, so I'm not able to buy anything for like a sports drink or sports bar or anything like that. But I see that you always bring something." I'm like, "Yeah, fact, okay." So he said, "Hey, I'm willing to pay you," and he didn't say a price. So the journey started there,
You didn't take
and
advantage of a young lad, did you?
I did not. I only charged $2.50 for a 8-ounce can. So, so
Not at all.
I'm just kidding. It was a sports drink, and ended up charging $1 for it. But that helped me see, okay, if I can provide value and be the only one that's doing it, I that means that something can come out of this and I can actually make money from it. I didn't come from wealth by any means, and my mom, worked nonstop. I got the opportunity to see her like consistently. So I seen the work ethic, but I also seen the fact that I didn't get as many shoes as I wanted. So for me, it's like, okay, he needs this. I have this. Let me provide it. And if he's willing to do it, that means other people are willing to do it as well. So fast forward from there, I got to the point to where I was pretty much selling, candy, food, beverages, whatever I could do. And
A walking convenience store, concession, huh?
yes, and whatever I could do, as long as I could also give it to the principal and the teachers so that they don't get me in trouble. So expanded to 3 schools after that, and had people working for me as well. And that was the start
13?
at 13 years old. So
That's dope.
I go to Walmart, buy the big packs of all the different candies, and then take them home, sort them out, figure out how much I can charge for each. And then when I started getting people that work for me, figure out how much more I can add and still be able to pay them, but also still make money for myself. And yeah, so when I did that, it was okay, I might actually be good at this. So
Can I pause you for one moment?
yeah.
Let me say this. You started off by saying, like any normal kids don't do that. Let me be upfront about that. I was not thinking in a very macro way about how I can generate money by having people to work for me and buying in bulk to make this happen. That's not normal, Mr. Anthony, Coach Anthony. Please continue.
Okay, so from there, didn't really know what business I wanted to go into because I started getting deeper into sports, mainly because my favorite sport was basketball, but I allowed the negative influences of other people to make me believe that I couldn't play, but they said that I could play football. And so I started that journey, and they told me how much you can make. And so immediately in my mind, once again, I said, okay, I'll play football, earn that income, play for 3 years, start my own business, figure it out by then. So did that, had the opportunity, as I said, to finish off at Houston Baptist. Didn't end up playing at the professional level. And for multiple reasons, mainly it was for ego on that standpoint, but it was also because I met my business coach at the time. And he was one of the first individuals who actually challenged me the way that I feel like I needed to be challenged, because everyone else was more so just getting out of the way. And when I asked him to, be a part of his journey, because I found out of, who he had in his back pocket, the people who were making the millions upon millions of dollars and impacting lives as well. And he told me immediately, he said, I don't think you can do what I do because you have too much ego, pride, and no patience.
Wow.
And I'm a competitive guy. And I said, try me.
Mm.
So I took that journey, and 6 years later, I ended up finally understanding what he meant, and took it as him wanting to help me versus to actually challenge me. And so did that. During that time frame, I also went in the corporate world. I did headhunting, recruiting for a time. I recruited for financial individuals in the hospital realm, so CFOs, financial controllers, financial directors, things like that. But I always had that itch. It was just that itch, and
Well,
I knew that I had to work for myself.
well, well, and I know for the sake of time, we may not have as much time for you to unpack that 6 year period that you kind of threw out there. but it sounded like during that 6 year period, you encountered a process of humility, being humbled. And I'm curious on if you could think about maybe 1 to 3 takeaways that you that emerged during that 6 years. What would that be?
Don't be afraid to get help. Yeah. Most people have a high sense of pride and ego, and they believe because of what society shows that everyone else outside of them is doing well, and that's not the case.
Mm.
Uh, you know, understanding that everyone else has something wrong with them, just like you do. So work on fixing yours. So, yeah, actually being willing to go get help, and that help could be, an individual who's already in the place of where you want to be, such as a business coach or a mentor or a therapist. At one point I used to tell my wife, I don't need therapy. And she said, everybody needs therapy. And I said, no, that's wrong. And then I started realizing, no, everybody needs therapy.
Sure.
so, to say all three, be willing to get help, find someone else who's actually doing what you're doing and follow them, and find a community of people who are like-minded and on the same mission. They don't have to have the same goals because there's only one you, but the same mission on a standpoint of, I want to make an impact. I want to change lives, etc.
I love that. I love that, Chris. Chris, you're becoming one of my favorite people, Chris. You're dropping nuggets, man. And I will say, just in our time together, it's very evident that you have, whatever the 6 year process has been for you, whatever the humbling process has been, and the ongoing process, because I know it's never an ending process. We just learn how to be humble in different ways, depending on what is the lesson being taught in the appropriate season. you know. But the great thing about it, as I mentioned earlier, is the quicker that we learn to say, oh yeah, I do have the problem, let me go ahead and unfold this, as opposed to no, that's not me. The easier we make it for ourselves, we just yield to the process. Something that you mentioned that I'd like for you to touch on as briefly as you can, but something that you mentioned that in our conversation, I think it was last week, about you regaining your ability to follow your intuition. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit and just talk about that? Because that is something that I strongly push as a spiritual coach, the importance of tuning into that intuition, discerning what it is, firstly, and really building the currency, if you will, building your ability to tap into that. And so when you mentioned it, I thought that that was really, really key and profound for someone to hear, because oftentimes, for whatever reason, we may shut that part of us out. It's always present, but we shut it out. And once we either open it back up, or once we've tried everything but following that intuition, we find how precious it really is in helping to navigate us through the challenges, the trials and the triumphs of life. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit and just talk about that experience of what it's been like regaining that sense of intuition or intuitiveness, and kind of where did it reach and when it break, or where did it break?
For sure. I think I could for sure tell you when it broke. It broke because I wasn't moving in business, number one. And it broke because I was essentially losing everyone around me while still at a pause in business. And so when I married my wife, she's a therapist, so that helped a little, but not on a standpoint of her actually coaching me,
Sure.
just on a standpoint of me understanding, okay, this is an option. And so the first part is just being aware, actually knowing, as you said, yeah, I need help, and not being willing to push it off. because at one point in my life, I used to just push off my emotions. I grew up with a father that is from South Central Los Angeles. So he used to tell me, emotions will get you killed, trust will get you killed. So all these different things that helped him be able to survive, but it didn't help him be able to thrive. And because of that, it was locked in. It was programmed into my mental. So when emotions came, I either ran and didn't realize that I ran, or I submerged something else into it, such as music, sex, whatever it may be. And then one day I had an individual just say, "You ever try meditation? You ever tried just not listening to anything?"
Mm.
And with that, it started unlocking a lot of emotions. And I didn't know what to do with them. But eventually got taught, okay, with these emotions, you embrace them. You understand where they're coming from, why they're coming there, and then how you can overcome it. And then being at peace and being present in the moment. And so that helped me tremendously on a intuition standpoint. And by no means am I perfect. I still fight the programming of trust will get you killed and all those things, but it's helped for sure.
Well, let me applaud you for being vulnerable with it, especially as another man. And I am going to make that, I guess, very sexist statement, because I do realize, I think it's general knowledge, at least in this country, how we have been trained as men not to access emotions, and or to be very incapable of managing emotions in that sense, especially when it concerns being vulnerable. So I want to applaud you for being able to share that. Even as a spiritual coach, I also am working through how to continue to be intentional about being present with my emotions, being present with how I feel, and being present on how to navigate that, especially as we are having to live to a degree in retrospect, that a lot of the programming that we're dealing with likely happened from childhood up into early adulthood or late teenage years. And so it's like you spend the first half of your life going through experiences and stuffing all of the experiences down, and then you spend another 1 or 2 decades of unpacking that stuff and learning how to actually confront it and build up the skills and the competencies on how to manage that. And I'm praying I'm almost 40, and I'm very, very, very grateful to be almost 40. One more year, I'm 38, I'll be 39 this year. Next year, I will be 40, and I'm going to go on a mountain and celebrate very well. But I can attest to much of my adulthood at this point has been dedicated to doing deep, deep, deep work on unpacking the traumas of childhood. So again, I really applaud you, man, for being able to share that truth and to share that you are still working through that. I don't have much more time, so let me kind of zoom through my questions real quick. I really want to ask you the 10-year question. Let's dive there, and then we can always wait. I'm going to save that one. We'll save that one for maybe another conversation. I want you to share with us, when clients meet with you, what can they expect to experience?
Change in thought, more clarity, peace of mind and action. I'm someone that I continue to learn. I'm a student, and I believe that if you're not continuing to learn, then you're not doing the best you can for your client. So for me, they can expect someone that's always going to give them 100%.
Fantastic. And if people want to contact you, where can they find you? How can they get a session together? I need to work out some kind of light payment plan or something, because I need to be first on the list. But for those who do not know you, that will see this video, how can they reach out to you? How can they find you?
For sure. Instagram is my name. So Chris D. Anthony. Regular spelling, Chris D. Anthony. And then my email is coachitl2022@gmail.com.
Okay. And I'm going to get you to send that to me so I can make sure whenever I post the video, I can actually add that to your bio. So if you can, just add those handles to your bio, and I'll be sure to post it on the YouTube page.
Okay.
Any final words that you would like to share?
Don't be afraid to be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. Train your mind to control your thoughts. Stop overthinking. You can do it. Believe in yourself. Don't take in the critics, including yourself, and just take action. Go have fun.
Excellent. Wise words from Brother Chris, Coach Chris. All right, man, it has been fantastic. I know you have another meeting. I don't want to cut into your money. So thank you for your time, man. It has been an absolute blessing. I will be in touch. I am going to stop the recording here, just say my final words to you. But thank you so much for blessing and gracing our platform. Look forward to having more conversations with you in a podcast kind of a way. So give me one moment.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure. Okay, we're gonna stop the recording now. Thank you, YouTube folks and everybody. I'll post this up here soon. I'm trying to hurry to get off now.